The Billionaire in Room 808 Part 1. Chapter 1. The Arrival. The heat in Capri was different. Not oppressive, not heavy but golden. It shimmered across the sea like silk, reflected off whitewashed walls and danced in the glass windows of the black town car that wound up the cliffside like a ghost in designer shoes. Layla Hart sat in the back seat, window cracked just enough to let the salted breeze kiss her cheek. Her oversized sunglasses masked the exhaustion beneath her eyes, but nothing could hide the tightness in her chest. It wasn't the jet lag she was used to, sleepless flights and spontaneous landings. It was the weight of beginning again. Her fingers played absently with the strap of her leather bag. Inside, one slim laptop, two burner phones, a luxury skincare set that was mostly for show, and a carefully folded piece of paper with a list of names, dates, and a single phrase written at the bottom in her own handwriting. Find him. Before they do. The car rounded the final bend, revealing Il Palazzo, the most exclusive hotel in Capri, maybe in all of Italy. Not the kind of place that appeared in tourist guides or influencer videos. No hashtags. No deals. You didn't book a room here, you were invited. And Layla hadn't been invited. Her cover story was airtight, though, a freelance writer hired by a discreet luxury travel blog to document rare 5-star experiences for ultra-wealthy clients. It was true, in part. The blog existed. The money was real. But her real employer didn't care about room service menus or wellness spas. She was here for a ghost. The car stopped. A porter in an all-white linen uniform opened her door with a silent bow. She stepped out, her heels clicking on stone older than most countries. Everything smelled of bergamot, polished wood, and money. Old money. Quiet money. The kind that didn't announce itself. Inside, the lobby was as close to perfection as she'd ever seen. Pale marble floors, soft lighting from carved alabaster sconces, and a massive floral arrangement in the center, orchids, calla lilies, and something dark and purple that looked nearly black. Even the air felt curate. A woman behind the check-in desk, wearing the kind of silk blouse no one wore unless they belonged to this world, looked up and smiled. "Signora Hart," she said in flawless English. "Welcome to Il Palazzo. We've been expecting you." Layla smiled back, hiding her surprise. She had used an alias. Eva Laron. Either the hotel was very efficient, or her arrival had triggered some kind of alert. She decided not to ask. "Yes," she said smoothly. "It's a pleasure." Her passport, fake, but flawless, was scanned. Her credit card, a real one from a clean account, was accepted. And then came the key. A black card. No logo. Just the room number. 808. 8th floor, West Wing, the receptionist said, placing the key in a small leather envelope. "Your luggage has already been delivered." Layla blinked. "Already?" The woman's smile widened, but said nothing. She took the key, nodded, and turned toward the gold-edged elevator. She was trained not to show hesitation. Not to question things out loud. But something was already off. She hadn't told the hotel her arrival time, and she certainly hadn't arranged for bags to be delivered to a room she hadn't seen yet. Still, she got into the elevator. It moved without sound. Through the glass wall behind her, the sea stretched out like brushed metal, the sun beginning to sink in the distance, bleeding gold and bronze into the waves. 8th floor. The hallway was impossibly quiet, carpeted in the color of sand under moonlight. No footsteps. No noise. Just a single corridor lined with identical matte black doors, spaced too far apart to be normal. The kind of floor where every suite had its own wing. She found 808 at the end. Slipped the keycard in. The door opened. What she saw made her pause. The room was not a room. It was a sanctuary. Or a lair. Floor-to-ceiling windows faced the horizon. Clean lines. Black marble. Slate-gray walls with no art, no distractions. The furniture was minimal, brutalist, masculine. Not a single flower, not a single personal touch. And yet it felt alive. A bottle of unopened scotch sat on a small table. 3 crystal tumblers. A bowl of Turkish figs. A single orchid in a black glass vase, white, perfect, and chilling. Her suitcase was there. In the entryway. Alongside it another. Not hers. Layla's pulse quickened. She walked further in, every step echoing in her ears. A side door stood slightly open, a bedroom, she guessed. She didn't dare look inside. Instead, her eyes landed on the item that changed everything. A black duffel bag, half-zipped, sitting on the edge of the coffee table. Bundles of euros. Stacked, banded, silent. Next to it, a phone. Buzzing. Once. Twice. A message appeared on the screen in Cyrillic. She backed away instinctively, heart pounding. She knew what this was. She'd seen photos. This wasn't a billionaire's vacation suite. This was a staging ground. And she wasn't supposed to be in it. The door clicked behind her. She froze. Footsteps. Soft, measured. The sound of a jacket being removed. A long silence. And then a voice, smooth, deep, accented, impossibly calm. I don't remember ordering room service. Layla turned around slowly. He stood just inside the door. Hair damp from rain. Dressed in black. No tie. No visible weapon, but everything about him, the cut of his jaw, the set of his shoulders, the way he didn't look surprised, radiated control. She opened her mouth, but he raised a single hand. I'm going to ask you once, he said. Why are you in my room? She swallowed. Smiled, shaky, but charming. I think, there's been a mix-up. His eyes flicked down to the black keycard in her hand. Then back up to her face. He stepped closer. No, he said softly. This isn't a mix-up. He didn't look angry. He looked curious. Like she was a puzzle. Or a test. Or both. Layla suddenly felt the weight of her bag on her shoulder. Her laptop inside. Her phones. Her notes. Her voice recorder. Did he know? Had he been watching her? She forced herself to stand tall. I'll just go, she said, reaching for her suitcase. He didn't move. Didn't stop her. But the silence stretched like wire. Where would you go, he asked finally, if this wasn't the wrong room? She looked up. What? He tilted his head slightly. You said it was a mix-up. But if it wasn't, would you still leave? She stared at him. And that's when she realized something terrifying. He wasn't trying to scare her. He was interested. The man with the darkest room in the brightest hotel. The ghost billionaire she had come to find. Luca Moretti. She didn't run. Not yet. Chapter 2, Room 808. She didn't move. Neither did he. The silence between them was unnerving, not awkward, not tense, just measured. Like they were both waiting for something to happen that hadn't yet decided whether it would be good or very, very bad. Layla's hand still rested on the handle of her suitcase, though she hadn't pulled it an inch. The man, this Luca, if the rumors and whisper trails were true, didn't take his eyes off her. He didn't blink much either. There was no visible reaction on his face. Not confusion. Not irritation. And certainly not alarm. It was like she was a glitch in his perfect machine, and instead of removing it, he was studying how it got there. You don't seem very surprised, she said, finally breaking the silence, her voice laced with just enough confidence to sound like she wasn't deeply, deeply nervous. A slow blink. Then, that voice again, smooth, European, neutral. I don't believe in accidents. Layla gave a tight smile. That's unfortunate. Because I'm fairly sure this was one. She held up the black keycard, still inside its leather envelope. I was checked in under Eva Laron. They gave me this key. I opened the door. Walked in. That's all. Luca's gaze shifted to the envelope. His expression didn't change. How long ago? 10 minutes. Maybe less. Did you open anything? A perfectly reasonable question on the surface, but Layla could feel the weight behind it. What he was really asking was, did you see something you shouldn't have? No, she lied smoothly. The room was intimidating enough. I didn't touch a thing. Luca took a step closer, hands still at his sides, completely relaxed. There was something eerie about the way he moved, controlled, deliberate. Not like a businessman. Like a dancer, or a predator. And yet, he said quietly, you didn't leave. Layla felt the heat rise in her chest. I was about to. Were you? She exhaled slowly through her nose. He wasn't going to make this easy. The door was behind me. You were in front of it. Now his mouth twitched, not quite a smile, but something that acknowledged amusement. He looked away for the first time, his eyes scanning the duffel bag still on the coffee table, the untouched scotch, the perfectly arranged furniture. Then back to her. Eva Laron, you said. She nodded once. I know every guest in this hotel, he said. Layla's stomach twisted slightly, but she kept her face still. Well, she said, lifting her chin, now you know one more. Another pause. And then, inexplicably, he walked past her. She tensed as he stepped behind her and toward the window, pouring himself a drink without looking back. The clink of crystal. The hush of liquid. The quiet. Layla turned, but didn't move closer. He took a sip. Still watching the sea. You didn't answer my question. Which one? If this wasn't the wrong room, he said, would you still be leaving? There it was again, that strange curiosity. Not flirtation. Not intimidation. Something else entirely. As if she had wandered onto a stage during a play that had already begun, and he was trying to decide whether she was part of the story or a disruption to be removed. Layla crossed her arms lightly, adopting the stance of someone used to power, even if she didn't always believe it. Honestly, she said. I've stayed in a lot of rooms in a lot of places. This one feels different. How so? It doesn't feel like a hotel room. He turned his head slightly toward her. It feels like a vault. A full pause. Then, that's not a bad guess. Layla's lips parted slightly, surprised by the admission. She let the silence stretch, waiting for him to continue, but he didn't. Instead, he motioned toward the window-side sofa. Sit. It wasn't a question. She considered refusing, just to see what would happen. But she sat elegantly, gracefully, knees crossed, bag beside her. Luca remained standing. He walked slowly back toward the coffee table and picked up the duffel bag. He zipped it shut with a single motion. Then placed it beside one of the chairs. As if it were just a piece of luggage, not a suitcase filled with banded cash and other things. He poured a second drink, carried it over, and placed it in front of her. Layla stared at it. Then looked up at him. Are you offering me a drink, or a bribe? The corner of his mouth curved up again. The smallest flicker of a smile. That depends. Are you someone who can be bought? Depends, she said, mirroring his tone. Are you someone who has something to hide? He studied her for a long moment. Then, finally, he sat. His presence was immediate. The room didn't shrink, but it focused. Like the energy shifted around him. Even seated, he had the bearing of someone who never had to raise his voice to be obeyed. Eva Laron, he repeated softly. Travel writer. Photographer. Currently covering boutique luxury for the Curate Horizon blog. but originally from New York. And recently, out of work. Layla's heart stuttered, just once. She didn't show it. You Googled me. I don't need to. I already knew who you were when you walked in. She sipped the drink to hide the chill that ran down her back. He watched her for a moment longer, then leaned forward slightly. Tell me something, Miss Laron. Why would a once award-winning investigative journalist suddenly switch to spa reviews and soft-focus sunsets? There it was. The slip. The pressure point. She met his gaze, refusing to flinch. Because truth pays in trauma. And I got tired of both. He leaned back, apparently satisfied with that answer. Or maybe just amused. Layla put the glass down. Stood up slowly. Well. This has been unique. But I'll let the front desk know there's been a mistake. I'm sure they'll reassign me a different room. She walked toward the door. Then stopped. He hadn't followed her. Hadn't moved. Unless, she said, turning back slightly, you'd prefer to have me stay. A pause. Then he rose to his feet with liquid grace. If you'd like, he said calmly, you can stay. One night. As my guest. Layla stared at him. Why? Because you intrigue me. And I like to understand things that don't make sense. And if I say no, then you'll walk out, he said, walking toward her. And tomorrow, I'll pretend I never saw you. But you'll always wonder why this room this night was offered to you. He was standing in front of her now, not quite close enough to touch, but close enough that she could smell something dark and clean: cedar, smoke, expensive silence. She searched his eyes. He didn't blink. Didn't smile. Didn't move. The offer hung between them like a lit match in a room full of air. I'll stay, she said. Chapter 3: The Dinner Invitation. Layla stood on the balcony of room 808, watching the final light slip from the edge of the sky. Capri wore dusk like a velvet shawl, draping itself in shades of bruised purple and deep, smoky gold. The waves below whispered secrets in a language she almost understood. Behind her, the suite was quiet. Luca had disappeared into one of the adjoining rooms. No explanation, no goodbye, as if granting her solitude was part of the game. If it was a game. She couldn't quite tell. Everything in this place felt like part of a larger performance. One she hadn't rehearsed for. The air had cooled. She hadn't planned to stay. But now, she was waiting for what, she didn't know. Her phone buzzed on the nightstand. Not the burner. Her real phone. A single message from an unknown number. Your car will be here at 8. Wear something elegant. No name. No signature. But she knew who it was. Layla didn't reply. She let the message hang in the digital ether like a dare. The car that arrived was not hotel branded. It was sleek, black, an unmarked, less luxury limo and more diplomatic vehicle. The driver wore no name tag, and said nothing beyond, Miss Laron. She nodded, stepped inside. The drive wound up a cliff road she hadn't noticed on the map. Not the usual tourist trail, not even visible from most vantage points. And as the lights of the main town dimmed behind her, Layla realized they were climbing toward something hidden. After 20 silent minutes, the car curved around a final bend and there it was. The villa. It didn't sit so much as hover above the sea. A structure of glass, stone, and shadow, pressed into the cliffside like it had been grown from the rock itself. Modern, minimalist, but with the kind of proportions that screamed old-world money. Not flashy. Powerful. The gates opened soundlessly. No visible security. But Layla had the distinct impression that everything was being watched. The car stopped beneath a long overhang of poured concrete and teakwood. A tall woman in slate gray stepped forward as the door opened. You look beautiful, the woman said in a crisp accent Layla couldn't place. This way. Layla hadn't spoken a word yet. She had chosen the simplest of her options, a deep emerald silk dress that fell to the floor, sleeveless but severe, paired with flat black sandals and a matching shawl. Nothing ostentatious. Just enough to suggest she belonged. She followed the woman through a stone corridor lit by tiny recessed floor lights. Everything smelled of cedar, ocean air, and something expensive she couldn't name. Not perfume. Something older. They passed through tall double doors and into a room made entirely of glass. Layla stopped. The dining room floated above the sea. The walls were invisible. The night was everywhere. Just one long, elegant table, dark wood, nothing on it except two place settings and a single silver candle burning low between them. And at the head of the table, standing with a glass of white wine, was Luca. He had changed into something even more unassuming than before, a midnight blue shirt, no buttons at the collar, sleeves casually rolled. Still no tie. Still no smile. "You came," he said. Layla stepped forward, her sandals whispering over the stone floor. Was there a choice? He tilted his head slightly. There always is. She sat across from him. The woman who had led her in, an assistant? A house manager, poured water, then disappeared as if she'd never existed. No waiters. No music. No noise beyond the sea, softly breathing below them. "This is surreal," Layla said at last, unable to stop herself. "The view. All of it." Luca looked out into the night, as though seeing nothing at all. "I don't entertain often," he said. "You're a rare exception." "Why?" "Because you're not what you seem." She raised an eyebrow. "That's a lot coming from you." Finally, the corner of his mouth curved. A flicker of dry amusement. Not quite warmth. But closer than anything before. "I like honesty," he said. "Do you?" He looked at her. Really looked. "I like watching people try to lie," he corrected. "It tells me more than the truth does." Layla's heart thudded once, quiet but sharp. Before she could reply, the first course arrived without a sound. A tray was placed beside her by someone who had entered and exited like a whisper. A small plate, grilled figs with whipped burrata and aged balsamic. She didn't touch it right away. "You didn't ask if I had dietary restrictions," she said softly. "I already know." That made her laugh quietly, but it was genuine. "You really did look me up. I don't invite people into my space without knowing who they are." "And what did you find?" Luca set down his wine glass. The candle light reflected faintly in the sharp lines of his jaw. "A woman who ran too fast toward the wrong truth. And got burned." The smile vanished from her lips. "You read the articles," she said. "I read between them." Layla looked away. Out to sea. That scandal. That one decision. That tip she had trusted. It had cost her everything. "I was misled." "You were used," Luca said, softly. "And now, you're trying to write your own version of the story." His tone wasn't cruel. It was observant. Clinical. Almost kind. Layla picked up her fork. Took a bite of the figs. Perfect. Salty, sweet, warm, luxurious. She took a sip of wine. It was delicate, crisp. Unidentifiable. "I'm not here to impress you," she said. "I don't need to be impressed." "Then what do you need?" Luca leaned back slightly. The wind stirred through the glass walls as if summoned by the question. "I don't need anything, Miss Laron." His voice dropped lower. "But I am interested in things I can't explain." Layla met his gaze. For the first time, she felt the shift, not intimidation, but invitation. He was offering her a seat at a table no one else sat at. Not for seduction. Not even power. Curiosity. She could feel it wrapping around her like velvet chains. "Then let me explain one thing," she said, placing her glass down. I'm not part of anyone's story. Not anymore. Luca didn't argue. Didn't nod. Just said, we'll see. That's the end of this part, but trust me, the next one is even more thrilling. We drop fresh episodes every day, so don't miss out. Like, subscribe, and stay tuned, you won't want to miss what's coming next. Thanks for listening to Billionaire Romance Stories, where love meets luxury in the most unexpected places. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to like, subscribe, and drop a comment. We love hearing your favorite twists and favorite theories. And don't forget to ring that bell, because in this world of yachts, secrets, and luxurious romance, the next story is always one click away.